We had one patient that he was 29, and he contracted that alpha variant, and he was up in ICU intubated for probably about 2-3 months, and he was starting to progress, starting to get better, and he was able to convince the doctor to discharge him to let him go home so he could be at home for his son's first birthday. Well, he went home. Later on that evening, they called 911. We get there, he's really short of breath, really working to breathe, pale, cold, diaphoretic. I transport him, I do everything I can for him, take him into the ER. Within about 30 minutes of being in the ER, he codes. He goes into cardiac arrest. They worked on him for at least 2 hours, and he ended up dying at 29 years old, just that way he could be home for his son's first birthday.
I remember one time that it did really hit me. We had this patient that we were coding, and at the end of the code, the doctor said, hey, the family couldn't go in the room because the patient had COVID, right? So family is seeing us through a glass door that we're doing compressions on their family members and all these things. And I remember seeing the wife crying and the kids crying. After the patient had passed away, we all stood around and had like a moment of silence. And in that moment, it did really hit me, because I was like, man, this is a life. He was a husband, he was a father. So that day when I came home, I was actually pretty sad and everything. And then I was like, I can't do that anymore. Like, I need to keep that aside, because I was like, I won't be able to do my job. I mean, if I get getting affected by all these patients that are dying, like, it'll overtake my soul, it'll overtake my mental and my emotional way of being.
I had taken care of his wife several times in the emergency department, and he was the caregiver for her because she was on hospice. And I got to diagnose him with COVID in the ER. And I remember just knowing he wasn't gonna make it. And he was her caregiver, and they lived alone together. And I just knew. Here this man has devoted his entire life to caring for this woman, and I know he's not gonna make it through this, and she's gonna be alone. And I was right. He didn't make it. And I honestly don't know what happened to her, but I knew. And it was so sad and tragic, because I had seen him bring her in so many times and was so bright and cheerful, and just that patient that tried to make all the nurses laugh and tried to make his wife laugh and keep everything upbeat and positive and funny. And then they'd giggle, and then they'd go home together. And it was adorable. And I watched it happen several times until that one day when he was in the bed. And I was like, you're not coming out of that bed. And I knew it. And he didn't. And I honestly don't know what happened to his wife.